All right, y'all, I think this is about where we left off. I was starting to put the rim joist on, or finishing up this section of the rim joist. As you see, I'm using my trusty buddy, man, the jaw stand. I told you, I'm gonna do a whole video about that. I love that thing. But yeah, it's always great putting the rim joist on because you know you're almost done with the framing. So I don't have too many more steps left for the framing part. I gotta add some blocking in, and that's it. The frame and everything with the deck is finished. It's level. It's a beautiful thing. Now, all I gotta do, I'm dragging the joist over to the rim joist so then I can nail them in. And I'll also be nailing them in from the other side, and I got a couple more brackets to put in. But like I said, this side of the deck, I used 12-foot boards for the joist. On the other side of the deck, I was able to use 16-footers. I didn't have to cut them down. I was just able to just slide them over to the rim joist and just nail them in. It ended up working out great because, man, if I had to cut all these things up, that would have been a pain. I'm also going to double up the rim joist, but that's just attaching a new one. Nothing, no big deal there. This is the ledger flashing cap. So, you know, on my de facto ledger, you just put this on top to stop the water from going behind that ledger. You know, I already flashed the wall, so if it does get behind the ledger, I already have protection set in place. But this, hopefully, with this and the siding and everything, we never even get water behind the ledger to even have an issue in the first place. And that's what you want. I mean, really, the whole system is based that if you could just keep water off of certain areas, especially in the areas where it can't get dry, then hopefully you'll never have a problem like this deck was in the beginning. I like this ledger cap, the plastic kind. They make a metal kind, but I like this. Of course, plastic. It's easy to use, easy to cut. I got a little dryer vent that I'm having to cut around. I'm not really totally cutting around it. I'm more so cutting it out so that I can slide it behind the dryer vent. But that whole thing's gonna change a little later anyway, so, well, a lot later. But yeah, this stuff is easy, man, and it doesn't cost much. So it's just one of those things where just get the ledger cap. You know what I'm saying? And the answer is yes. I'm putting joist tape on top of the ledger cap. Is that a bit much? Yes. All right. Is it overkill? Maybe. But when I put the boards down, I just want, when I put the screws through the ledger cap, hopefully the tape seals up the hole. Now, as you see, everything's done. All the framing is done. Only thing I have left to do is put some blocking in. And I'm gonna put 2 rows of blocking in, one on this side of the deck, one on the other side. All I do, I take my little Titan Makita saw, which, man, I mean, this thing is a godsend. It comes in so handy. I'm able to just, it's so lightweight. I love to just have it everywhere. So I throw it up on the deck and I just cut the blocks as I go, and it makes it easy. This is also where I'm using the boards that I was able to salvage from the original deck. There wasn't many of them, ended up not being many of them, but save a little bit of cash. Saving cash is always welcome. But, you know, in the beginning, when you're first building a deck or you're first building any structure, things move quickly. They just moving, man. And every little thing you do seems like it's a major difference in what's going on. But once you get to this part, the blocking and doing the trim on the outside, things slow down. And it's crazy because it's like you're still making a lot of progress. I wanted to show y'all this real quick. See those angles? I still use the bracket. So every single one of those joists still has a bracket on it, even though on some of them, like the long joists, they're only offset about 18 inches off the beam. So you don't need a joist hanger, but they all got joist hangers anyway, because I just like to do that, especially when I'm gonna double up the rim joist. I just like everything to be strong as it can possibly be. So some of the tedious things, like I gotta finish putting tape on these joists, which is, that to me, that's the most tedious. I asked in the last video, I'm telling you, there's a company out there, I'm gonna try them out. They got a product that all you gotta do is you just roll on the liquid over top of these joists and it does the same thing as the tape. That's what they say. If it works, I'll use it all the time. All right, this is the part where I'm using aluminum railing for this deck. So I have to put these boards down so all the railing has something, you know, substantial to bite into. I already know where all the posts are going. Everything's pre-planned. So on this edge, I have to go around with these. Now on the front edges, I got to put wide blocking across the entire thing because on those, the deck boards have nowhere to sit because I'm picture framing this. I'm putting a board around it as an edge. So those front boards are not going to have anything to rest on. So I have to have blocking around the whole thing. Plus, I got to have something for the railing. So it's going to be continuous blocking around the whole front. And that's not as difficult as it sounds. I mean, like in this corner, it's a weird angle, but as long as I got space to put the board on top and then I just trace it out from underneath and just cut it out. So it's really not as difficult as it seems. And of course, I'm going to put joist tape over top everything. So like I was saying earlier, this is the part where things kind of slow down, where every day you're coming and, you know, it looks like you're not making much progress, even though you're making a lot of progress. I mean, things can get tedious, monotonous, which to me begs the question, are you fulfilled by what you do? I don't care what it is that you do. You know, you see what I do, you know. But whatever you do, are you fulfilled by it? Because I'm trying to tell you, in these moments when it's just burning up outside and the job is getting monotonous and you look in and you see like, I'm cutting this piece and it's taking some time and I have a ton more to go. You know, I got a bunch of these little pieces to go. The end result is still so much more important for me. I mean, is it overkill for me to say it's thrilling? You know what I'm saying? Like what this is going to turn into? Thrilling? I don't know. I don't know if thrilling, but it's something in me that just more interested in the finished product than the current state of the project. All right. So see, I cut that piece right there and it fits like a glove. Like I said, all you got to do is trace it out. Take all the extra guesswork out of it, man. Just if you could trace stuff you don't have to measure, do that. That saves you a whole lot of time. But yeah, man, I spent so many years trying to find something where I was fulfilled. Like, you know, you keep hearing this talk about people having issues with their 9 to 5, and I think that's a big part of it. I mean, it's hard to feel connection to something when you slinging boxes for 8 hours a day. You know what I mean? And, you know, my wife is an educator. You know, she was a teacher for years and years and years. She's an administrator now, but when she was a teacher, we'd always be somewhere, and she'd have all these old students coming up to her like all the time. It was kind of annoying for me, but she loved her job. You know what I mean? And you could tell by the way that the students had love for her. And this would be years later. I'm talking about people that were, you know, 10 years later after they had been out of her class, coming up to her like, oh man, I became a teacher because of you. And I was like, I missed that fulfillment because I had a bunch of jobs, but I was never able to connect to the jobs. I had jobs, we had major projects going on, built overpasses and bridges and stuff, and I just never felt a connection. This part right here, this is where I'm starting the edge board, you know, or the picture frame board that goes around the edge. What I do is those shims, I use those are for shims. They stick out 1.25 inches. And that's because this brand of deck board, I'm gonna show you right here, underneath, you see those little touch points it has at the bottom. I want the overhang for that board to be flush with those shims that I put on the side. So I slide it over and make sure it's perfectly flush. And this is the first board. This is like board alpha. So all the other boards will follow after this one, but this one sets the tone. This is also why you got to make sure things are squared off, because you're depending on this rim joist to be square. This whole deck already ready to be square, so that when you put this board down, by the time you get to the other side, the last thing you want is for the angle to be off, so that the board, maybe the boards against the wall are close together, and then as they get out to the front of the deck, they're wide apart or something like that, some ridiculous looking thing. Or if you're standing back looking at it, that it looks like they're all like maybe touching the house in one spot, but then by the time you get to the front of the deck, you see them all slanted. You'll be able to see it. Even just off by a few degrees, you'd be able to see that. That's why the title of the first video was, it's all about how you start. Because you did everything you were supposed to do, you get to this part, then you're literally just laying deck boards. You don't have to even think about all those other things and trying to straighten them out and everything else, because everything's perfectly ready for you. All right, let me show you this real quick. This board is done. There's 2 8-foot boards that I had to put together. You see that first miter. Now, there is a seam here. Try to get it. I usually put those on a 20-degree angle to connect them. I will put plugs in these where the screws are, but not now. I like to wait till I get to a certain point when I know I'm not gonna have to take a board off for any reason or whatever. Boards get damaged in the process. You just never know. So I like to wait until I have all the boards up and everything in place. Then I come back and put the plugs in. These little hook starter pieces right here, you need those when you start out the deck because this outer piece does not have any grooves in it, because you should never, ever use a groove board for picture framing. You'd be surprised how many times I see that. I'm usually not the guy though that likes to kill somebody else's work. You know, I'm just not that, but maybe for educational purposes. In the future, I might start taking videos of some of the bad jobs just to show you, just so we could all understand where it went wrong. Now, this is the front of the deck. This is gonna have a wide staircase. It's gonna go from the flat part of the front, it's gonna go all the way across. So it's about probably 9 feet wide. And down here, you see these boards sticking down. That's what's gonna hold the wood, that's gonna hold the stringers. So all that has to be in place before I closed up the top, because it would just be hard. I had to climb underneath to get to it. So they're all in place. I'm gonna put boards in the front of it, of course. You'll see that. You see that in the video I'm gonna do about the stairs. The stairs is the whole monster by itself. And now it's finally time to start putting boards on this deck. Now, of course, this part is tedious too. I mean, you know, especially with these hidden fasteners, there's no fast way to do it. I mean, you know, I started getting used to it. You get in a groove. So what I would do, I'd put down the hidden fasteners in front of the board, right? So right here, I'm putting down the hidden fastener, but you're not screwing it all the way in tight. You're just screwing it in so it stays in place and it's in the groove tight. But then later on, you'll go back and tighten the ones from before, tighten the fasteners that you had already put in. So you leave the front loose, then you slide the next board in, and you just keep it going. And once again, extremely monotonous. But man, you know, it feels good to be getting to this part. I mean, all those jobs I went through, you know, all those different employment positions I had. Who knew? I didn't know. It's like I was searching for something that was fulfilling, but I didn't know what it was. But I kept searching, and it was searching for me, and we found each other, man. And I love it. I love this. Now look at this now. I finished the whole deck. It actually didn't take that long. There are no seams, and from where I'm standing, the furthest part away from the house is 20 feet. And then as I walk to the other side of the deck, after you pass the door, the furthest part away from the deck is 16 feet. So I had 20-foot boards and 16-foot boards, so I made sure I wouldn't have any seams, which I don't think composite deck, they like to have seams anyway. And look at this. Got to the other end. I mean, what more could you ask for? That board is gonna fit on there perfectly. I'm telling you, man, ain't no better feeling than that. Oh man. Now I got all the boards up, so I'm just gonna cut off the ends, right? This is not to perfect the line. All I'm doing is getting as close to the rim joist as I can right now. Use that 1 1/4 inch offset, put a board on top, and then I find my line and use a track saw to get it dead on. Make that line perfect. Now, normally when I use a track saw, I use a vacuum, but there was no way for me to attach the rail to the deck. So what I was not gonna do was take the risk of having a hose attached and then, I don't know, that hose somehow causing the rail to just, you know, go out of line just a little bit. I need this line to be perfect. So it is what it is, you know? But in the end, it all came out perfect. I didn't have the depth set right here, so I had to go back and go over it again because it's just off by a hair. So I didn't cut through all the boards, but I ended up getting it. So it all worked out in the end. I know some of y'all watching this video like, man, this is total drudgery, right? It was probably 98 degrees out with, 80% humidity that made it feel like it was 110, and you still won't get a pass if that line ain't straight. I mean, who would sign up for this? I know who. Me and a whole bunch of people out there that just get fulfillment from that you have something in your mind. It's the ability to have a project in your mind and then see it materialize right in front of you. Yeah, it's hot. Yeah, some days it's tough. But man, in the end, I don't know, at least for me, that fulfillment I get when these projects are completed, or even when I just see the progress, when this line comes out perfect, or this line around this whole thing comes out perfect. All the pre-work that I've done gets me to this point where everything is just great and it's solid. And I mean, this deck is gonna hold up for who knows how long. For example, I used to work at a metal plant where they made like kitchen supplies, like tables and shelving, right? Just stainless steel and use different materials. And when I'd see the material in the store, like I went to a store and I would see the commercial grade shelving, the wire metal shelving or whatever, I didn't feel any connection to that. I didn't feel like, oh yeah, I had a part in making that. You know what I mean? Like I used to run the CNC and we used to cut out the parts and this, and I never felt any kind of connection. But this is crazy things. Like when I do these projects, they feel like my kids, you know what I'm saying? My project kids. Not really, you know what I'm saying? Like that sounds weird, but you know what I'm saying? The whole key is find what fulfills you. Cause I did, and life's good, man. Look at them lines. Huh. I'm telling you, man, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. That track saw ain't no joke. I could never cut that by hand, but that's it. There you have it. We're going to continue that all the way around. And, just going to make this beautiful edge and continue on the next one. Daryl, also known as the finisher. Stay safe, be blessed, and remember, if the trades don't work, nothing else does.